Finch's Diner was not your typical greasy spoon restaurant. It was truly a place where people from all over Fort Anne met to socialize, to seal important business deals, to date, and to just enjoy some good old-fashioned home cooking. The staff argued with each other like families do, and they loved being sarcastic with everyone who walked through the door. It was a bit unsettling for your average tourist passing through, but once they figured out it was part of the town's charm, they too fit right in with the rest. Art Finch opened the business in 1929 when he was only 20 years old. He had worked since he was 11, saved every dime he ever made, and convinced a banker a town with one restaurant would do quite well. He was correct, and not much had changed on the inside or outside of the restaurant. The building sat on the corner of Route 4 and Queen Street. The exterior brick was the original, which his Uncle Dick, a mason, constructed as a personal favor to repay a personal debt. The interior consisted of local pine wood, which had been milled into 8-inch wide, 1-inch thick vertical boards, which were nailed to the walls, and a pine fir strip covered the middle gap between the lumber. It was never stained or painted, and today the weathered and aged look made the character of the room even more inviting to the people of Fort Anne. A fire occurred in 1945 when a young army man had come home on leave and took a waitress into the kitchen after hours for a little romance. He tossed his cigarette into a trash can, thinking it was extinguished, but 4 hours later the kitchen was ablaze. The one police officer for Fort Anne happened to be driving by in his routine night rounds and discovered the mishap. Already cursing that his free morning breakfast would not be available at 6 a.m., he sounded the town fire alarm. Being a small town, the fire department was right next to the diner. 8 men arrived within minutes, and a hose was dragged from the station to the hydrant in front of the diner. About 1 hour later, the fire was completely out. The kitchen was a disaster, but the men of the town discussed among themselves what to do. A committee was formed of the local trades, 1 plumber, 1 electrician, 1 painter, 1 builder, 1 demolition man, and 1 project coordinator. They all offered their services to fix and even upgrade the kitchen to get it back in operation quickly. They told Art to go take a week vacation. Art was in tears as he drove away to see his brother in Florida for the first time in 20 years. In about a week, the work was done in a feverish pace towards completion. Art pulled up in front of the building, and he was met by all the men and their families with big smiles on their faces. They pulled Art into the middle of them and had their picture taken for the local newspaper. The picture's still on the wall today by where you wait for a table. Art and the men went inside. The kitchen previously was poorly conceived in terms of layout, and when more than one person was in the area, it created chaos. The new design was put together by a sympathetic chef from Glens Falls, and it had a window for taking orders, a well-spaced prep table, multiple cutting boards for various tasks. This would be the ground zero for some of the best pancakes, omelets, and other creations for years to come. Next to the grill was the new oven, which would be the source of the best baked bread in northern New York State. Compliments of Laura Hoagie, who knew how to bake. In the middle of the room was a large no smoking sign. Art, now in his 70s, still got thrilled when people walked through the door. Tonight's meeting with the sheriff not only drew in all of the town's people, but he had the TV crews to serve, which was very exciting. He made sure to have his picture taken with all the news people so he could hang them on his wall as a memento of this day. The restaurant staff was bringing out trays of steaming coffee, hamburgers and fries, and hot apple pie. Art had every employee working. He also temporarily hired Charlie the plumber to play some piano music while people waited for the sheriff. Bobby and Allison got to the restaurant early so they could sit up front near the sheriff. Shep was allowed in the restaurant because one time a robber came into the restaurant and took $300 from Art's register. As the gunman was leaving, Bobby yelled to Shep to attack. Shep grabbed the arm with the gun and took the man down. Seconds later, an iron frying pan hit the robber in the head with a 180-degree swing from Laura Hoagie, who hated crime. The robber got 1 lump and 10 years in jail. Shep got a free pass to come inside the restaurant despite what anyone thought. Sheriff Jones looked tired when he stepped up to the podium that was brought in from Town Hall specifically to make things look more official and less like Fort Anne. The sheriff's southern drawl got quite intense when he started the conference, much to the amusement of those who liked making fun of his peculiar way of speaking. The sheriff tapped the mic and said, "Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me? Do I need this mic?" Various voices responded, "We can hear you, Bubba, but use the mic. Some people in here can't hear." Slightly agitated by the remarks, the sheriff continued, "At about 10 a.m. this morning, Bobby and Allison discovered the body of Coach Walensky buried upside down in a field owned by the Bentley family." Someone shouted, "You mean Grandma B's place?" The sheriff got mad. "Yes, Grandma B's place. Now you quit fussing until I'm done with this here report. Then you can ask all the questions you want. Understood? He cleared his throat. We've done an extensive investigation already. We've gathered evidence. There is still a crime scene, so please do not go back to the field and try to have your picture taken there. If you do, you'll be arrested. I've sent the body to Albany for an autopsy. Now, there are currently no suspects, but I do believe we should have one soon. If anyone knows anything, there's a $500 reward for information that leads to the arrest of the actual killer. Funeral arrangements for the coach will happen 2 weeks from now. Our deepest apologies go out to the next of kin. I will now field questions. Rusty Owens pushed his way to the front and yelled out, "How did the coach die?" The sheriff responded, "We won't know till after the autopsy." Rusty followed up, "But you're sure he was murdered?" Everyone in the room laughed. The sheriff said, "I will not dignify that question with a response." Next, Susan Woodland, a reporter with WTEN, asked, "What leads are you following?" "We cannot comment on the investigation as we need to use certain information to confirm the killer is the killer. You remember how Son of Sam caused a lot of copycat confessions? We don't want that here. I can see where this is heading, folks. No more questions. We'll reconvene here after the autopsy, and we'll have more to tell you then. Until then, do not panic. But I will use a buddy system until we figure this out. Thank you. Now, somebody, please get me some pie. Please."